That stench. I've smelled it before.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Halo 2 Legendary Walkthrough Guide. Today we'll be doing the mission, The Oracle, the 5th mission in Halo 2. And this mission is the first mission where we get to fight the Flood. And this mission is kind of a grind, if I'm being honest. This mission, you get to fight a lot of... basically, after this area, you get to fight in the elevator, which is really, really long and boring, as well as you get to fight in another corridor, which gets you a little bit more enemies to fight, which is like the Heretics and more Flood. But after that, we get to do one of the coolest glitches in the entire Halo franchise. It is super easy to pull off. I believe literally anybody here can pull it off, and that is the Invincibility glitch. And I very much look forward to bringing that to you. But for now, we're going to hop right in. And as I've been talking, I want to highlight that I've been giving all my people here a weapon that they are going to be useful with. Like the Needler is going to be very useful with that Grunt. The Needler is going to be useful for taking out the Flood combat forms when we go into the next area. I gave an Elite a sword, for an example. I gave a Grunt a plasma rifle rather than their plasma pistol. And that is all in preparation for when we go fight the Flood in the next area. Now, I picked up the Sentinel Beam here because that is going to be useful for taking out the Flood infection forms here. They drop from above. I just wanted to go through this as fast as possible. I could have shot up above and focused on that, but rather than do that, I kind of just wanted to make sure that I was kind of just focusing on the ones that were on the ground. Went to go pick up my carbine because I knew that the doors were about to open. There is a dialogue piece that you are going to be wanting to look out for, and that is the Heretic Fools, what have they done, and then you are free to go on into the elevator room. There will always be 3 Flood combat forms sitting here waiting for you, so make sure you take them down. There are also going to be 2 Sentinels, so make sure that you are looking out for them as well. I almost got freaking wombo comboed by that Flood combat form, but thankfully I was able to get a sticky grenade on him. These Sentinels are really irritating. There are more Sentinels that do spawn in, but the initial amount of Sentinels that you deal with are 2. But basically, notice how useful that our forces are right now. We are going to want to make sure that we have a Covenant carbine. We want to make sure we have that for when the Flood hop up onto those little, I guess we are going to call them platforms. Because when they hop on them, they are giving you a perfect opportunity to shoot them in their face. And that way we can get that nice, crispy headshot. So looking around, there are only 2 areas that these Flood combat forms can come from, and I am looking at both of them right now. So that we're going to keep an eye on our motion tracker, make sure that we try to aim for the head. It's going to be very difficult, but it is possible. If they do land on your elevator, you will want to switch to your energy sword and take them out. Now, if there is, in any case, a Flood combat form does sneak by you, you still have your friendly neighborhood elite with a sword who is going to be very much a help to you because he is going to be covering your flank. So, keeping an eye on him. Now, we are always going to want to make sure that we are keeping an eye out for any Covenant carbine ammo. We want to make sure that if a Flood is carrying it, we want to make sure that they get as close to us as possible. That way we can get more ammo. Got some more Flood on the right. Don't neglect the side that you're not looking at, by the way, because if you do, you could be put into a position where the Flood are only coming from that side, or they're like coming from both sides, and you're just not paying attention to that. So I've been killed on this part multiple times because I just completely forgot that there was a Flood combat form coming from my flank, and I should have been more attentive to that. Now, in any case, you do get a Flood combat form on your elevator. You should immediately switch to your energy sword, kill the body, or dismantle the body. That way a infection form cannot resurrect it. Keeping an eye out for any more combat forms on both sides of the elevator here. Switching over side to side, making sure that we are keeping an eye out on our motion tracker. Got another one right here. We want to kind of pace our shots. Notice how I didn't just like spam my firing. I just kind of slowly started hitting the trigger and made sure that I have like kind of a rhythm going. Now, the only time I actually do kind of spam the firing button is when I'm dealing with sentinels, but that's because they're like I can't hit their critical spot. I can hit the critical spot on the flood combat form, like the headshot right there. Now, again, if a flood does land on your elevator, it is completely fine. You can keep your carbine out if you want to. Like, notice how I didn't even bother. I just used my carbine. I didn't switch to my energy sword. It could be a waste of time. So, to like switch over to your sword and try to fight one. Not to mention, there's a chance you fall off the elevator because of the sword lunge that is still pretty much prevalent, even with just hitting RB or whatever your melee button is, rather than the firing button. So we're just kind of trucking along. We got, I think, a few more minutes of this. It's always like this, no matter what you do. That flood combat form kind of just snuck up on me. There is a way, I believe, in like a speedrunning guide for you to skip the last part of this elevator, but ultimately it doesn't really, like, again, this is not a speedrunning guide. We're just gonna kind of fight through the entire thing. Gonna keep taking out these flood combat forms. They kind of come out in a little bit more intensity as the elevator goes on. However, I noticed that it's kind of scripted. The amount of enemies that do spawn in, it's usually 2 or 3 at a time. So as long as you were able to take out a good portion of them, usually 2 will show up on one side, 3 on the other, and very rarely will you deal with all 3 like I just did right now on one side. So you ultimately, all this really depends on is paying attention to your motion tracker. If you keep an eye on your motion tracker, this elevator area is actually not that bad. And notice how I'm always staying in the center. I'm never moving from one side to the other without a purpose. Got another flood combat form coming on down. I'm going to pretty good on the carbine ammo. I'm trying to make sure that I don't just like run out of carbine before we get into the next area, but even if you do, there is still plenty of carbine ammo when we go into that later area. Now, once you get down to the very bottom, you will look for the 2 flood combat forms that are sitting here waiting for you. One of them will have a carbine usually. The other one usually is out waiting for you, but this time he sat here waiting for me. So thankfully I was able to take him down. And then notice how there's all these combat forms. I'm not going to take any chances. I'm just going to like take them all out. The grunts are kind of funny because they kind of just like flail around and just like bounce like 600 feet up in the air. It's pretty funny to melee them, but moving on, in this area we do get to see the heretics and the flood come in. So this is an excellent opportunity to kind of like sit here as a third party, let the flood and the heretics kill each other, which allows you to kind of just end up fighting whoever the victor is. And that is kind of useful when you think about the entirety of this this entire engagement, because you are dealing with a lot of heretics, you are dealing with a lot of flood, and it's just basically you versus them. Like, I luckily have kind of like my entire squad ready, but unfortunately they all die really, really quickly. Like that elite right there, and I just have this grunt here, and I had just given one of those elites my other energy sword, so he was able to be useful, but unfortunately he died. So all I have left is this stupid grunt who has yet to get on the stupid turret like he usually does. But unfortunately the flood killed my last guy, and I am all that remains. So if you are in the same boat, that is no issue. You will want to use your active camouflage as a tool to traverse the outside area. So you want to stick to the shadows. And if you are able to stick to the shadows, you are going to be much more, you're going to be in a much better place than if you just kind of sat there out in the open, waiting for the flood to kind of just wreck you pretty much all together. Because when you're sitting in the shadows, you're giving them only a little bit of a line of sight. And I'm trying to look out for where that other flood combat form is. There's probably, oh, there was a heretic. See, just one more heretic, and so using this active camo as a bit of a defensive mechanism rather than offensive. Just gonna try to see if I can sneak up behind him. He was right there. Luckily, got the blue ball on him. It was easy peasy lemon squeezy, and I was able to conserve my energy sword for the flood combat forms coming up here in a few moments. Gonna try to see if I can use my carbine here to try to take them out from afar. And if you do use your carbine, make sure that you clean up after yourself. And what I mean by that is take out your energy sword, kill those flood combat forms. If you basically don't have an ability to do so, make sure you have your energy sword ready. That way you are able to kill the flood combat form as it's resurrecting. It's a very useful thing to do. It allows you not to have to deal with the same enemy twice. And again, make sure you stay away from flood combat forms, even if they are fairly, they have a distance away from you. Because notice how that flood combat form kind of like tossed the box. He could kill you with that box if you are close enough to him. That flood combat form just came out of nowhere. I don't know what the heck was going on, but thank God Motion Tracker was there to save the day. Now, if you get into a position where you see two flood combat forms together like that, you will want to rapidly try to use your energy sword to take out the one that's furthest away and then take out the one that's closest. It is very difficult to pull that off, but once you clear out enough enemies, you will run immediately over to this door. You will hide in this corner, try to see if you can get a few enemies away from you, and then just sit here, wait for this door to open. And you've pretty much gone through the most difficult section of this mission. This mission is pretty much over once you get through to the Heretic cutscene. Now, there will always be two carrier forms here, and there will always be two grunts. There will be one flood combat form and a bunch of infection forms, but thankfully the Phantom is very useful for taking out those flood infection forms. Not to mention you have a whole bunch of friendlies coming in hot, so it's going to be pretty nice for you. Now, if you're in a position where your carbine is pretty low, you're going to want to do what I'm doing, which is playing very, very passive. I'm not trying to get up close and personal. I'm letting my friends, my other elites and grunts here, do the work for me. And I'm going to just take out the enemies that I can, and then I'm going to try to go up all close and personal once I use my active camo, pick up any carbine ammo that I can, and then fall back immediately. If you do that, you should be safe. There's not that many enemies. There's usually 2 heretics and a few grunts per side. So every single engagement, so just make sure that you are keeping an eye out for them. Not to mention there could be some sentinels, so just keep an eye out for them as well. So keep on moving up. We're just going to make sure that we're careful, not getting too aggressive, trying to make sure that we don't hit a spawn in for any of these enemies. Notice how I'm moving up, moving back. I was looking for this guy. He was the one that I was wanting to take out because he always is hiding somewhere, and he's super, super annoying. Now, notice the sentinels came on in. We're going to make sure that we take those guys out. Once we do, there's a few more enemies around here. We're just going to make sure that we take them out. If you ever feel like you're in a difficult position, active camo, run away. Do not sit there and deal with any enemies firing on you. Just kind of chill. You don't need to get all aggressive. You're not, just take your time. So, checking it out. Looking like we have 2 more heretics and a grunt. So, take out the grunt. He's the easy peasy one. And then we're going to take out both of those heretics as we can. Got another grunt. So, there's 2 grunts, 2 heretic elites. And I believe one of them has a sentinel beam. The other one has a carbine. So, when we get into a position like this and where it's kind of like a Mexican standoff, we kind of don't know what to do. We kind of want to charge up whenever we can. Thankfully, our elites here are very useful, and they were able to help us by distracting that one heretic. Now, when we get into the final room, ignore the heretic. He's not going to die here. What you will want to do is start taking out the enemies surrounding the heretic. There's a bunch of flood combat forms as well as a few sentinels. You want to take them out as soon as you possibly can. Do not get do not get distracted. Just take them all out as fast as you can. Got a few more flood combat forms, and once you eliminate the last flood combat form, we go into the cutscene.
This will save me from the storm, but you will be consumed.
Arbiter,
Where is he? Stinking floodmate boxed himself in tight. We'll never break through this. Then we shall force him out. How? The cable. I'm going to cut it. Get everyone back to the ships.
Alright everybody, after that cutscene, we're going to be heading on all the way up to that elevator, and we're going to be doing one of the coolest skips in the entire Halo franchise, known as the Invincibility bump. Now, to start this out, we are going to be skipping the flood combat forms coming out of this door. We're just going to keep on moving, and then we're also going to ignore the sentinels that are up here near the elevator. Now, if you are getting hit, feel free to use your active camouflage, but if you are able to, just keep on walking past like nothing's happening. But in order to do the skip, you're going to hit the elevator button, wait for it to move up, hit the elevator button again, stand underneath it, and it will launch you just like it did me all the way up, and then you will land at the very top, and you will be completely invincible from all enemy fire for the rest of the mission. Now, basically this part is kind of like the way you would normally have done it. You would have destroyed the cables, and then you would head back down the elevator. So the thing about this is, now that you're invincible, you have plenty of time to just sit here, listen to the shipmaster or the spec ops commander just kind of talk, and that unfortunately is the trigger for you to be able to destroy the next cable. So once he says one final cable, Arbiter, you will be able to start to destroy the next cable. So that is all you have to really wait for, is this dialogue, and then once you do that, we're going to destroy this cable. And once we destroy the final cable, we're going to beeline it immediately to the elevator, and then we're going to stand on the edge of this elevator, and we're going to count to 3. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, jump on down, and then there's going to be a loading done, and then you're going to land at the very bottom of the elevator. Now, you want to be very careful when you're down here because there is no gravity. You will want to use your sword, and you want to be able to use the crouch button to make sure that you retain a lower center of gravity. Do not jump here because you will be put into a position where you won't be able to get back down. Just notice how when I do fall, I'm falling down, I'm crouching, and then I'm moving on. I'm not jumping here. I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm not using my sword to like sword fly into the next enemy. I'm just moving on using my carbine. Now, I'm going to skip him, and then we're going to head to this door. Alright guys, once we get into this Banshee, we're going to be heading right to the next hangar like we did last time. We know exactly where it is. There's a gigantic waypoint waiting for you. And we're going to just land immediately over here, ignoring any of the Banshees. We're just going to land. Of course, this isn't so much landing as it is crashing. So, once we get done with this cutscene, you have gravity back. It's going to be really cool. You're going to be able to be invincible and have gravity. So, you're going to be pretty much a one-man killing machine for the rest of this mission. Again, this is the coolest skip in all of the Halo franchise. It is super easy to pull off too. So, like, you still have to get through all the grind that is the Oracle, but this mission is super easy once you get past that elevator. And as soon as you're able to pull this off, like, I promise you, this mission is like a cakewalk. But you will want to, like, this is again a speedrunning technique, and I like to incorporate them, but again, like, I want to make sure that it's like a realistic one, a cool one, something that everybody can do. And then I like to share these because some of these are super neat. Skipping past these carrier forms, letting that carrier form launch me a little. Sword flying into that elite. Just keep on going. Again, we're kind of just backtracking from what we did in the Arbiter. We're just heading back to the hangar bay. We're almost there, though. Gonna take out a few more elites, while we're not elites, but combat forms. got that grunt there, and then we're almost there. Got a few more of these flights of these ramps, and then we'll be back in the hangar, waiting for the Heretic in his Seraph fighter, and here we are.
Turn, Heretic. Arbiter, I would rather die by your hand than let the prophets lead me to slaughter. Who has taught you these lies? The Oracle.
Hello, I am 343 Guilty Spark. I am the monitor of Installation 04.
Ask the Oracle about Halo. How they would sacrifice us all for nothing.
More questions? Splendid. I would be happy to assist you.
The elites are blind, Arbiter. But I will make them see.
Alright guys, now that we're in the final part of this mission, this, like, normally would be super intimidating, right? Like, he has 3 of them, and he's going to be able to melt your shield super quickly, but the cool thing is that you're invincible, right? You're going to be able to do all the stuff that you would not be able to do normally, like stand out in the open and get shot at by 6 plasma rifles, and be able to walk up to the correct Heretic leader, or the correct, like, the actual physical one, and just hit him. And if you get it wrong, there's no consequence to this. So it's really, really, again, I cannot stress the importance or the coolness of that invincibility glitch. It's top tier. Now, you typically, the reason why I'm standing over here is I'm waiting for that Heretic to jump out of one of these little areas. Notice how the what is it called? My motion tracker showed where he was exactly coming from, and notice how he went back into the exact same tunnel here that he came out of. Now, the chances of him coming out of another tunnel are very slim. You will just want to keep next to the tunnel that he went into. Usually, that is the one that has the correct Heretic in it. Now, if there is a mix-up, or if you get, like, cross-eyed and you thought that you had it right, it's completely fine. Again, you're invincible. Notice how the other 3 came out that way, but I was really looking for him to come out this way, which is weird because he did not go through that way. But it's okay, because again, I'm invincible. It doesn't really matter. Just take out the correct Heretic however you decide to do so. Took out that one. Looking for that one. So that must be the correct one. We keep an eye on where he goes. He ends up going into the exact same tunnel that he went into last time. So we're going to be making sure that we keep an eye on him and head directly for that side. Usually you can tell also by where the dialogue is. Like, if you can hear him really audibly from where you're at, that's probably where he's at. So once he comes out, we're just going to sit here, wait for him to go out of this little hole. Decided to toss a grenade at him for good measure. There we go. Got a sticky on him, but it was one of his, like, mirages. That was another one of his mirages, so he went into a whole different one again as well. There we go. One more time. And there it is. That is the Oracle on Legendary difficulty with no deaths. If you guys liked the video, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. And I'll see you guys next time for Delta Halo. Thank you for watching.
I had no choice, Holy Oracle. This heretic imperiled the great journey.
Oracle, great journey. Why do you meddlers insist on using such inaccurate verbiage?
That is the Oracle.